So all of the news coverage obviously has been centered on the attempted assassination of Donald Trump and the echo chamber that comes from that. In the midst of it, you have probably not heard, or not heard enough, a judge has dismissed Donald Trump's case related to classified documents. Let's put it up full mass. I'm going to give you the background. So per the Washington Post, U.S. District Judge, Judge Cannon, has now dismissed the federal indictment against former President Donald Trump on his charges of mishandling classified documents. Now, I'm going to explain to you how this could impact the other cases. So this marks the second major legal victory in 1 month following the historic win before the U.S. Supreme Court. Win after win, huh? These are just a few people giving him these wins, though. It's not democracy. Judge Cannon ruled in a 93-page decision that Special Counsel Jack Smith was improperly appointed. You got to understand the legal ruling. It's quite ironic. She did not rule on the facts of the case, the nature of the crime, the penalty thereof, nor immunity, qualified, etc. Nothing. She said that Jack Smith was improperly appointed. So this ruling, obviously, regardless of the why, is a significant win for Trump. Despite the possibility of reversal on appeal, Trump's lawyers had previously made similar arguments, but this time succeeded where other courts had rejected them. His lawyers did not make a similar request to dismiss the federal election interference case in D.C., even though Attorney General Merrick Garland appointed Smith to oversee that case as well.
With millions watching and many people benefiting from this program called Indisputable, we just need 1% of the viewers to become a paid member so we can continue to bring this content to you. Now back to the show.
The Justice Department obviously is highly likely to appeal the decision, and the issue may eventually reach the Supreme Court. By dismissing the entire indictment, Judge Cannon's decision also means that the charges are dropped for who? The co-defendants. Co-defendants. So Walt and Carlos, no issue anymore, okay? Even if Cannon's ruling is eventually overruled, the decision to dismiss Trump's indictment adds a string of legal victories for him in recent weeks, including a sweeping Supreme Court ruling July 1 that gives former presidents broad immunity for their, quote, official acts while in office. And based on that ruling, damn near anything can qualify as an official act because it was done while they were officially in office, which is insane. But I want to bring us back to the precedent that is set here. So the judge has now set a precedent saying that basically, if you challenge the special prosecutor, we're not talking about the evidence. They did not attack that. We're not talking about the grand jury process. They did not attack that. All of these things were obviously within the normative protocol. They attacked how the case got to the special prosecutor. Okay, this is what the judge has done. So on social media, Trump said Monday's dismissal, quote, should be just the first step, end quote, and that the rest of the criminal and civil cases against him also should be tossed out of court. He accused Democrats of conspiring against him to bring those cases, a claim that has been repeatedly denied by federal, state, and local officials. Quote, let us come together to end all weaponization of our justice system, end quote, he wrote. So just a reminder, it was Donald Trump who said lock her up. It was Donald Trump who was upset at Coleman for not arresting Hillary Clinton. It was Donald Trump who called a foreign head of state while being president in order to investigate two American citizens. One was his absolute political opponent and a former vice president of the United States. There's more. His significant legal victories, however, also comes less than 48 hours after he survived an assassination attempt in Butler, Pennsylvania. After Judge Cannon's decision, one person who expected to have have to testify in the documents case called Trump, quote, the luckiest man on earth, end quote. The person spoke on the condition of anonymity to describe candid feelings about the development. Trump attorneys have long considered the classified documents case to be the strongest of the 4 criminal cases against him, in part because the acts in question mostly occurred after he left the White House. And it was the case that most worried them. The documents case has been particularly concerning to Trump advisors because if it ever goes to trial, it would feature first-person accounts from people in his inner orbit describing conversations with him. I want to remind everybody that a grand jury, a jury of American citizens, they looked at the information, they looked at the evidence, and they said, true Bill, he's a former president, but this is illegal. He must be indicted. That is what citizens did, okay? Now, what will the current administration do? What will the Department of Justice do? Because see, instead of appealing, log the appeal, make a different move. Because if this dynamic is associated with the dismissal of a special prosecutor, dismiss the special prosecutor and utilize the DOJ proper. That's what you can do. If the issue is bureaucracy and protocol and the management of the process, well, you did that not out of force or mandate, just change the process because the evidence has not been attacked. The grand jury decision was not attacked. Rights were not violated in the traditional sense as we understand the defendant to have rights. So why not simply be aggressive and go ahead and directly do this case from the office rather than appointing a special prosecutor? That's just a question I have. Put it up full mass. If you remember, Trump was charged with 40 counts of illegally retaining classified defense information and obstructing government efforts to retrieve the material. Some of the documents found in the FBI search of his Mar-a-Lago home contained information about top secret US operations, so closely guarded that many senior national security officials are kept in the dark about. In 2022, after FBI agents searched Trump's home and found more than 100 classified documents, Cannon appointed a special master, essentially an extra judge, to scrutinize what documents investigators seized. An appeals court later reversed her special master appointment. Cannon's opinion delves into the legal theory of the special counsel regulations and does not address the crimes Trump and his co-defendants are accused of committing, or the merits of the evidence that prosecutors have collected. A spokesman for Smith did not immediately respond to a request for comment on Cannon's decision to dismiss the Florida charges. In her ruling, the judge wrote that the issue of a special counsel was a novel one that had to be decided before the prosecution could proceed any further. Cannon found that the Justice Department has inconsistently appointed special counsels and that the, quote, lack of consistency makes it near impossible to draw any meaningful conclusions about Congress's approval of a modern special counsels like Special Counsel Smith. She said Smith's degree of autonomy made him a different type of prosecutor. Cannon has also been skeptical of prosecutors' decision-making in the documents case, but Monday's decision is her most consequential ruling by far. Trump's legal team did not adopt the argument attacking the very premise of the special appointment until conservative legal groups pushed it. Did you hear that? This is so extreme as a ruling that all of Trump's lawyers, they didn't even think of it. They didn't even think of it. The legal minds that are supposed to figure out ways to get a client off, they didn't even think of this legal argument because, well, it was so much outside of the box, so extreme. So how? And then here comes the conservative think tanks pushing rhetoric, narratives contrary to law, and the judge rules. So the legal argument gained more sting this month. Why? Because of this guy, Clarence Thomas. Okay. So Clarence Thomas, Justice Thomas, wrote in the presidential immunity case that the special counsel's office needs to be established by Congress and that Smith needed to be confirmed by the Senate. Thomas urged lower courts to explore this issue. Thomas wrote that he tacked on his concurring opinion to the immunity ruling to, quote, highlight another way in which this prosecution may violate our constitutional structure. The judges are talking to each other. But the conservative think tanks came up with the ideology, the framework. There's more. So in a few weeks before Thomas's opinion, Cannon held 2 hearings. One on special counsel's appointment, although she noted that precedent supported Garland's appointment of Smith and acknowledged the high legal bar for overturning it. Her ruling remained unclear until she issued her opinion. Trump's legal team argues that Garland's repeated statements about Smith's independence and overseeing the case should make him a principal officer, requiring Senate approval. The special counsel team countered, however, that Smith, like previous special counsels, is not a principal officer. They argued that while federal regulations say Garland does not provide day-to-day supervision of special counsels, the Attorney General ensures that they adhere to DOJ protocols and can review major investigatory steps. Ladies and gentlemen, the fix is in. Just understand that the fix is in. These judges are changing their minds in midstream. They're making decisions for themselves to remain in proxy of power, not decisions based on rule of law, and definitely not based on the citizens of this country. I will bring you developments as the appeal comes.